Well, hello, folks. Welcome back to the Speed Street Podcast. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for lending us your ears for a little while, or if you're watching on the YouTube, we thank you as well. But tell your friends that if they don't want to watch us because they don't find us very disgusting to look at, that you can listen on Spotify, you can listen on the Apples, you can listen where you listen on podcasts. So be sure to honestly subscribe to the channels. Leave us some reviews if you want, some comments, whatever you feel like. It's always very helpful for us. We want to try to interact more. We want to try to get this show to the highest level that it can possibly be. A lot of IndyCar stuff going on. I was in an IndyCar very recently, test last week. There were several of us in IndyCars. There was a driver that is on this show this week, Rinus Veekay, who was unexpectedly invited to join the IndyCar test with Dale Coyne Racing. So we have that to talk about. We have big Indy NXT news. The Indy Lights Series, they have a big, very large signing of Hailee Deegan. Hailee Deegan is going to be a part of the IndyCar ladder system next year, which is huge. There is more to talk about with the Arlington Grand Prix, the street race in Texas with the Cowboys, the Rangers. Cowboys, tough look for them football-wise after this amazing announcement down in Arlington. But I think that we obviously recorded the show last week before the official announcement came out, so it was a little bit more difficult for us to have a conversation about. But I also went to the IndyCar kind of series low-key. It was like an IndyCar series meeting on last Monday, basically right after we recorded the show last week. And so there's a few interesting little nuggets that we learned about what the future of IndyCar looks like. Everyone was in that meeting: Roger Penske, Jonathan Gibson, Jay Fry, Doug Bowles. Everyone was in that meeting that is an important person in the IndyCar series, including a lot of the drivers via Zoom, and then a lot of us were there in person. So yeah, lots to talk about this week. I'm excited about the Rinus Veekay interview as well. I think he is a fantastic conversation. I think a lot of people have been looking forward to this one. So yeah, Chase, what do you think about it all? What's the highlight for you? What do we got going on?
Right now, I'm just wondering how long it's going to be before Jerry Jones just buys an IndyCar team, man. I feel like he might have a little bit better luck over there.
He might need one with how bad the NFL team is.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, just turn the whole AT&T Stadium into an oval, dude. Why not? So yeah, it's been a great week. The Indy NXT news, the Hailee Deegan. We got a NASCAR driver coming over to IndyCar. I mean, that's essentially what that is. That is not false. That is real. That's real information right there, which is huge for the series. And as somebody that is just kind of like, I don't think anyone is oblivious to the Hailee Deegan fan base by any means. But
yes,
that's a lot of people. It's a lot of fans. One of the biggest followings on social media, rivaled the actual entity of NASCAR in followers, I believe. So, yeah, that's the kind of drivers that you like to see come to the IndyCar world. So that's been the huge story. But like you said, really interested to talk with Rinus a little bit, to hear you and him really just get to kind of go back and forth on that, being from what you guys experienced with ECR, and just really excited to have another day of fantastic news. I feel like I don't feel that removed from the IndyCar season being over. I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just getting going, and I've never felt more excitement around people talking about it. So safe to say the trip to the moon's going well.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on. The Arlington Grand Prix circuit. So on Monday they let us have a look at the circuit, and they kind of asked all the drivers as well in the series meetings, which I'll get to, about what we thought of it. And my initial look at the track is it's great. I think it has to look exactly like the simulation looks. It has to have the painting on the surface to make it look very high level. Like it looked like an F1 track, I'll say. It looked like a Formula One street circuit, like Miami or something like that. And honestly, obviously we are not F1, but I believe that if we're going to make a new street circuit, it should be held to that standard. It should be, It should look very pleasing. It should look very professional for a street race. Yeah. Modern. And the fact that, again, Jerry Jones is down there, I think there are a lot of people that tweeted at me that were like, oh, but we should still be at TMS. I'm like, look, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to be at the Texas Oval race. Like, I really am not saying that. But what I am saying is, if you don't understand how big this is, I believe, for our series, when you have Jerry Jones, Roger Penske, Alex Palou down there, Joseph Newgarden, the head dude for the Texas Rangers. I don't know much about baseball, so I'm not sure there. But when you have a track that's designed like it was, the location that it is, and the level of professionalism with the Michael Irvin video, like the hype video that was made, that is professional marketing. That is a professional event. This is not something like, it's something that honestly we are not used to. When we have a new event, like the Nashville Street Race was really cool, but there wasn't like a very special, like, here's the virtual layout of the track. And if anything, the track kind of changed every year, and now it's not even there because of construction. So it's, we obviously hope to be back to the Nashville Street Race, and that still the Music City Grand Prix people do a better job at promoting and advertising than several of our promoters in IndyCar. So that's not to trash them at all. They do an amazing job, and they sold a ton of tickets. But I'm just saying this level of what was brought to kind of our series, I think is extremely high level. And you have to be happy about that. It's like, look, you know what? Okay, we don't have TMS. Well, that's a shame. But it wasn't replaced with like some silly carnival ride. Like, this looks awesome. And if Jerry Jones is behind it, and if the Texas, like, you know how big the NFL is? The biggest. So, like, that is something that I think is super exciting. And I thought the track looked cool. I don't like the dual pit lane. I've always been against that. I think it's silly, and I think that you're going to get some accidents to happen in there. But until they do, I guess we'll just roll with it. You know what I mean?
What's the podium look like?
Podium could be sweet.
The virtual podium?
No virtual podiums yet, but it looks like whoever is going to promote this event, it looks like it's a separate promotion. It's going to be correct. Now, again, we have to show up, and we've talked about this before on this show. We better show up, and there's no manhole covers that need to be glued down to the surface. The walls are all in line. There's not a delay in practice because someone forgot to put the tire barrier out there. Like, it has to go correct. But I believe that with enough time, obviously, a lot of us are like, oh, man, I hope that happens next year. No, we got some time. It's 2026. I mean, I might not even be an IndyCar driver in 2026, so I might not ever get to be able to enjoy it. I certainly hope I am. But as a spectator, as like right now, I'm a fan. I'm on the sidelines right now. I'm a spectator, and I think it's sweet. So I think we have to be super excited about that. And I know that it's tough to understand why we're not at TMS, but I've explained why we're not at TMS many times, and the reason, people were like, oh, well, we should be there. It's like, well, no one went there. So it's a shame. It is a shame. But that was cool. I mean, how did that hype that hype video with Michael Irvin made me feel I was ready to charge through a brick wall.
Well, we had that leak that came out, like where something had surfaced with Michael Irvin, and we were like, what is this going on?
Posted it too early or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, obviously, like, we knew that like this Fox deal was going to get some NFL involvement. And, there was something that happened this weekend I'll let you talk about too. But going back to what you mentioned about professionalism in marketing, that's where I think that's what we lean on here, right? Like, you have to, like, look at, I hate to make the comparison, but it's like, I feel like this is what they were trying to do with the Thermal Club thing, So but you have to have the right pieces to the puzzle in order to make it work. So this is a very familiar name, Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, Michael Irvin, very familiar in the sports world. That familiarity mixed with something new is what's going to really generate that buzz. So I thought the virtual layout, like being able to show the fans kind of like, hey, we know we're not there yet. We don't want to just leave you empty-handed. They put the effort in. And I mean, that's a lot of work to create those virtual environments. So the effort was put in. The work was put in, and now if we can just continue to execute this, or we as IndyCar fans, we have to hope that IndyCar continues to execute at that level moving forward. And if that happens, that's the same type of stuff you see with celebrities doing NASCAR commercials and things like that. You just have to be in that environment to get that result. And that's just what that is at the end of the day.
And so to also explain, we got a nice virtual layout of the track. I don't think people realize that costs a lot of money to do. So, we could have easily just got like a picture of like a track layout like we did get, but IndyCar and the promotion group, like that costs a lot of money. So you cannot say that they're not already spending money on making it look how they want it to look. Doing that virtual design, the virtual layout, and getting that built, it costs a lot of money. And the same people that did the Miami F1 race are apparently the people who did this one as well, which is very professional. So again, we got to give credit where credit is due. The promotional folks are hitting this out of the park already. And again, we've got a long time until the race happens, but it's a lot to be excited about. So I just wanted to continue to kind of talk about that for a little bit. But we've got other news too. Let's move into the IndyCar test that just happened recently at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There was a lot going on there, and I'm not even going to read the results because it's absolutely absurd that people read the results on this, and it's like it's not a big deal. It really is. It's like, honestly, it's like the same people who look at the practice results during the Indy 500 practice week and think, well, looks like that person's going to win because they were fastest on a practice day, or it's just not true. And I don't know how people can't quite grasp that yet, but I'm going to try to paint a picture for you. So the Indy test there was a test on Thursday. So there was a Firestone test, and so there were several cars running, Ericsson, Palou, Newgarden, and Pato. And so they were trying to do some work with Firestone to figure out what the most ideal tire is for next year. And then our test, so take our car, for example, right? So I was running with JHR in the number 77, which was it. The number doesn't mean anything on it, by the way, although it is on my shirt, which is kind of funny. But the 77 car is basically when a team is running one car, right? You run whatever chassis, and we're a smaller team, so whatever chassis is closest to being Speedway prepared, whatever chassis they can work on easiest to get as much data as they can possible, that's the chassis. It happened to be a number 77 car, so that's why we're in the number 77. Doesn't mean anything about next year. We're still in need of sponsorship for next year, so that hasn't changed. But as a team like JHR, so JHR, for example, they haven't got to go to the wind tunnel ever. Every other team is doing that. Maybe not Dale Coyne Racing, but I know for a fact, even Dry Rhine Bowl, they're at the wind tunnel a lot. Ganassi has their own wind tunnel. All these other teams are in the wind tunnel. They're doing aerodynamic testing. And so JHR has not had a chance to do that. So for us, our main goal is we ran by ourselves all day. So that immediately eliminates you from being anywhere on a timesheet because we don't care. That test is not about a performance thing for us. So we're going to go out there. We had the entire day, we had no downforce on the floor. So we had nothing, basically almost like a qualifying type, similar to a qualifying type level downforce. So if you were to run in traffic, you would be dying and it would be terrible because cars in qualifying trim are never meant to be around other cars because of how fast we go there. But yeah, a lot of that test for me is just going through the system. So we're like, okay, we're going to run this aerodynamic setting. We're going to get all the data for it. A lot of the time as well, we do laps on basically a 200 mile an hour speed limiter. So we go out of the pits, we run 200 miles an hour on the pit speed limiter for a lap to collect data. All that data goes to the engineers. You can see, okay, this is how much aero load we're creating from the front, the rear, the middle of the car, the floor. So all of that data is super important for them. And they've not had a chance to do this as a group. So this test is super important for them going forward. We can test several different front wing builds. You can test several different builds on the rear wing, several different things that, again, a lot of these other teams have done in the wind tunnel, and they have their own data from the wind tunnel. We have not been able to do that yet as a team. So it's a very helpful day for this group to just learn more for next year. For me personally, I get a little frustrated on a day like that because I want to kind of get into traffic. There were a couple other cars that started running some qual sim type downforce, but not, a couple runs you'd see people with, a little bit more trim and they ran by themselves. But realistically, a lot of people just kind of run with the max downforce and they run in a little bit of traffic to get a feel for it. Whereas we as a team, we had a different test mission. So, for us, like, when you look at the times, right? It's like, okay, well, that person did that time, and you get a draft when you're like literally 10 seconds behind another car. So even if you're 8-10 seconds behind another car, you pick up a mile an hour almost on your overall lap time. So again, looking at the overall lap times is it's just kind of silly because it doesn't really mean anything. But a lot of teams have their own test plans. A lot of teams have, when you look at, no-toe speeds, like, all right, well, we were third no-toe speed and we were kind of just doing our own thing. We weren't really pushing it like crazy, but that was a big learning day for the operation. We basically ran as many laps as we could run. And the car definitely does have a different feeling to it with the hybrid weight and the hybrid system. And I think a lot of people want to be like, what does the hybrid do? Like, what does it do? Well, I don't know how to say this, but it doesn't make it better. I will say that.
Alex
sadly,
Palou seemed like he was a little bit happier with it out here at the track. I did read some things. He was kind of pleased with it. I even had somebody say that they think that they're going to bet on him for the Indy 500 now because of the practice results from there.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But now I think I did see that tweet, and I do believe it. That was a funny tweet. I enjoyed that. Yeah, good sarcasm tweet there. I enjoyed that. But yeah, so I guess to try to explain, that's kind of the first time a lot of us have got to run the hybrid at Indy. And again, the hybrid regenerates its boost by us just lifting off the throttle or by manually regenning. So we could be full throttle and we could pull the clutch paddle or press a button to just regen energy. Now, that does slow us down from a top speed perspective immediately, but we can manually regen and get that battery charge. So we did mess around a little bit with, how much does the boost add? And then how much do you lose by having to regen? Because most of the laps I do are just with a full battery. Like you have the battery at full and you just do laps because you're flat. Like when you're doing qualifying, you're just full throttle at Indy. And with the weight of the cars, they're definitely slower. I mean, a lot of laps at 216, 217-ish. And that, that's kind of sad, but it is kind of gross, yeah. But when you add 100 pounds or whatever it is, that is it. And then, there's a couple times I'll share, for example, like, all right, we're doing 217.0 by ourselves. I'm going to do a full deploy of the battery. You probably get to 217.5 on that lap. So again, a half mile an hour increase on a lap, that's big. But I think we're still very early on in the identifying, okay, well, if you use it all and then you manually regen for a lap, how much speed do you lose versus how much you gain? That's still kind of up in the air. I would say you can definitely feel it when you're flat and you pull the paddle for manual regen. You definitely feel a little bit of I'm not going as fast. But the boost, the electronic deploy that we've got, you can definitely feel it, but it goes away quite fast. So I think there will be a lot more experimentation to be done in that department. But I certainly hope that with the tire testing they've done, with maybe some different aero situations, maybe, I don't know, but it is somewhat. And again, I don't want to be too negative because again, we were a little bit pessimistic about several races this year that actually went really well. So we're not going to do that yet. But my initial thought is it changes the balance of the car. It does. It did look like it was quite difficult in traffic for several folks out there because I was watching a lot of cars run in traffic. And again, only the front two can really do anything. But that's just an initial judgment. We got a long time before we get back there in April for the test. I hope I can be a part of it. But that was kind of my initial feel. And cool to see Rinus out there too. Quick side change. I literally, we talked to him later, but saw Rinus in the garage. Stingray Rob was supposed to be in that car. We hadn't really mentioned that, but Stingray Rob was supposed to be in that car. Not really sure what happened. But, well, here's the thing. Stingray Rob in that car doesn't get you anywhere. I'm sorry. Like, Stingray, nice guy, nice fella. Saw him at the IndyCar Series meetings on Monday. Nice fella. But it doesn't get you anywhere testing because unless he wrote down every secret from Foyt and Penske, maybe that's why they put him in. But if Dale has a chance to put in Rinus has been on the front row 100 million times, it feels like. He's been fighting at the front there. Maybe that can help bring Dale's team forward. So that's probably why that happened. And I mentioned these IndyCar Series meetings, so I wanted to kind of share a little bit about that too. Chase, also, did you see anything, cool to see people talking about the test? I guess I want to know from your perspective, like, was there a vibe like, hey, all right, at least something's going on, we could have something to follow?
So I dug in to see if there was like a way I could watch the test, and that is one
it's
thing
unofficial. So yeah.
I think that IndyCar could really look to open up, maybe just use some, if they have cameras that are outside of the track, whether there's sound or broadcasting or whatever, just have that to put on a YouTube live stream or something. I feel like that's just something cool to have for the fans. But other than that, I didn't hear much from the test other than seeing that tweet that I told you about and then reading a little bit of an article about Alex Pillow's thoughts on the hybrid at IMS.
That's all right. So,
I mean, the biggest thing that I saw people talking about was the Indy 500 advertisement during the football game. That was the big one, and I don't know if we fully mentioned that in the beginning of the show, but that's the kind of things that people are getting very hype about these days. Are commercials.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was huge. I mean, you got to love to see that. I mean, to be kind of a prominent ad during an NFL game on Sunday is massive for us. It's great to see Fox doing that, so we appreciate them for doing that.
7 months ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting locked in early. I respect that. Just keep feeding it to people, and I bet we'll see it more and more. So they showed the Arlington Grand Prix circuit as well, the street race down there in Texas. So that was really cool. Really appreciated seeing that. And to kind of talk a little bit more about what I sort of found out this week or last week in the IndyCar Series meetings, kind of a low-key meeting. It wasn't, this isn't an official thing. Like everything that we found out, I'm not going to be able to say everything that happened because a lot of this stuff is confidential. Because IndyCar, I will give them credit. They are great at trying to keep us in the know, right? There were several drivers that were invited in person. The rest of the drivers were on via Zoom. So they could hear everything. They couldn't see everything we were looking at, but in the room is everyone, all the big, the big wigs at Penske. Roger's in there, Bud Danker's in there. You've got Doug Bowles, my stepdad. You've got Jay Fry. You've got several other folks in the Penske Entertainment group, Jonathan Gibson, and they're sharing their excitement about the Fox deal with us. They're sharing their excitement about the Dallas event, the Arlington Grand Prix event, kind of looking back at a little bit about what our TV stuff was this year and then what the TV package will look like in the future. And also, we saw the new car. They showed us an image of the new Indy car for a couple of years from now, at least a computer generated image of what the new Indy car might look like. And I think they're a lot further down the road than people expect them to be when it comes to the new car. And they showed a lot about just things for us to be pumped about. Really, like they're working on getting more manufacturers to IndyCar. I think that's a huge thing that we want to see. We want to see another engine manufacturer, obviously, in our sport. And what I really like too is that Roger Penske was in this meeting asking us too, like what we thought, or like what about this, or they talked a lot about statistics of hybrid passes on the track. And, a lot of the short oval passes you could have done without the hybrid. You could have done with the hybrid. But they had an interesting data piece where it's like, like 67% of the passes were made with use of the hybrid. It's like, well, everyone's using the hybrid at the same time. So, I think it's good for them to listen to us and say, hey, we appreciate these stats, but we, probably could have done this as well. But that's how you build, I think, a better sport, a better business. We're all kind of bouncing things off the wall. We're learning about stuff, and we're learning what they're doing. And I still, I see people just throwing them under the bus all the time because it's easy for everyone on the couch or in the basement or on the Twitters just to be like, oh, Penske's not spending enough money or whatever. They are spending an incredible amount of money on this sport.
And they're having town halls.
And they're having town hall meetings. Yeah, like it's something that they really are working on. I believe, of course, we still have a long way to go. But I think there's a lot to be encouraged about. I'm not going to tell you any details on the car that I saw because, again, that's
he really
that's not my
He won't
department.
even tell me, y'all. So
no secrets. Yeah, no secrets to be shared. But it was exciting to see kind of the future and what we're looking at. But I applaud the series. I applaud Roger for being there and in the meetings and asking us. We were in there for 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours we're in a meeting, just kind of listening and kind of interacting with what's going on from a development side and from a marketing side as well. So I think that's really encouraging. I'm very excited about it all.
No, it sounds like they have all the ducks in the row, and I mean that's taking it seriously. One thing I wanted to ask about that meeting, like you talk about the hybrid, and they keep bringing it up. Like, yeah, like every that hybrid system is in every car. Is there? I know that you and I have like briefly discussed it, but like, is there any other drivers that maybe like the idea of making the hybrid an optional feature?
It would be impossible because because you can't draw in new manufacturers without the hybrid. So everyone needs the hybrid element, and if it was optional, no one would run it. But all the manufacturers need it. So anything that adds weight, no teams want to run, but we have to have it for manufacturers to be interested in coming to the sport. That's the only position that we're in. To get new manufacturers, you have to have the hybrid element, and that's something
sustainability.
That's something that they push to us even more. Like, hey, this is how we get new manufacturers in. There's got to be a hybrid element. And I'm like, you know what? All right. As long as we're still not as long as we're not Formula E cars, I'm okay with trying to learn some new things. And as long as we can use this more, that would be good. So yeah. Other news that we mentioned briefly before we get to Rinus Veekay. Louis Foster signed with Ray Letterman Lanigan. I said something last week's show. I was like, I know who's going to sign for them, but I couldn't say anything yet because we recorded the show quite early. But congrats to Louis Foster, whatever you want to say. I'm not actually sure the correct one there, but we're going to go with Louis because Louis sounds sweet.
I like Louis.
Obviously, the Indy NXT champion getting a seat in IndyCar is exactly what people want to see. That's the ladder system working. Shout out to Bobby Rahal for giving him a chance. That really would have been his only spot that I would say he could go without bringing a ton of money. Obviously, he's got the scholarship money, but the only remaining seats are funding required. So, the 2 seats at Juncos Hollinger, the 2 seats at Coyne, funding is required. So, and Prema, I kind of keep forgetting that no one has mentioned to me that there's any seats open at Prema. I don't know what's going on there.
What's the latest?
I would love to talk with them, but I've tried and my phone calls have been ignored. So I don't really mind. I'm excited for them, and I'm excited that Callum's back there, but I'm sure we'll see something from them soon. And if they want to call me, I would love to talk to them. But I haven't heard anything from there. I think they're probably sorted out, but I don't really know yet. So the only remaining seats are really, funding required type deals. But Louis Foster, good to see. And again, multi-year deal too. A lot of teams doing multi-year deals, which I think is very exciting especially for young drivers. I mean, that's the goal in life for sure. So that's cool. And then another driver signing that hit the world hard is Hailee Deegan. Hailee Deegan going to Indy NXT with HMD Motorsports. I thought she would have ended up at a place like Andretti. Honestly, I thought that would have been the vibe there, but obviously an HMD situation is where she ended up, and I give her credit for taking the risk. This is a difficult jump. This is really hard to make a switch of an entirely different lifestyle, essentially an entirely different driving style, an entirely different style of vehicle. But I respect the effort. And again, she's got one of the biggest followings on the internet, so it's and always the people with the massive followings have more people that decide to slander her than anyone else, and that's kind of a shame. But I respect what she's doing. She even sent me a message a few weeks ago saying that she was watching the YouTube video that I put out about the in-cockpit adjustments in the IndyCar, because obviously she's got the same in-cockpit adjustments in the Indy NXT car with the front and rear roll bars and weight jacker and stuff like that. So she's doing her research. She's out here learning about, as much about the open wheel side as possible. And I think we're going to have her on the show. I think we're going to have her on the show here very soon to talk about, her open wheel adventure that's ahead. So that could happen next week. There's an Indy Lights test this week, her first time in the car at the Indy GP circuit. So I think we're going to get a chance to chat with her, and I think that'll be really cool to be able to just talk about what went into the process of making the switch to the open wheel side of things. And we wish her all the best for sure. I think it's a brave move, and I respect it. So good for her for giving it a shot. And obviously, Chase, since you know a ton about the NASCAR side, that's got to be a big move. You talked about it a little bit on the Twitter sphere as well.
It's definitely something that's caught my attention, and not just mine, but a lot of NASCAR fans' attention. I think this is going to be the thing that, even if you don't like Hailee Deegan or you're not a fan of her or whatever, like the haters still tune in to try to see what happens. So that becomes numbers. So I can't stress enough how great this is for the series. But on the other front of it, like you're saying, choosing what team you're going to matters, and you have to understand like where you're at. So obviously she's at a point to where she's like, I want to race cars. And that's what matters more than anything. And I feel like when you're in that position, no matter where you go or what you do, like you're going to find a way, like you're either going to find a way to crawl through it all and get back to the top, or, you're going to just have to keep doing certain lessons or learning certain things over time. But in any essence, like NASCAR fans are going to be watching IndyCar more now. And that is something that is just, it's not a question really. And so like to know that it's happening like that now, I feel like it's just kind of surreal to see like certain things like falling into place like this, because I think we've always known that the opportunities for NASCAR drivers to come to the IndyCar world, and I've always had those thoughts too about like who would come or how many would come, and maybe this is the door opening officially. This is the beginning of that era of the door opening of how many will we see, So
yeah, I don't know.
I hope we get her. Hope we get her on the show to talk.
Yeah, I don't think we will see many fully make a switch, but I know she wanted a kind of a new, fresh start in something. And again, of course, the results, in Xfinity, she's had a tough go in the NASCAR realm. I believe there's, it's of course easy. It's very easy for us to look at results and criticize. People criticize all the time. I get it.
A lot of beating and banging in the Xfinity series. I'll put it that way.
A lot of stuff going on there. This is a totally different style, and so. Fair play to her for giving it a shot. And again, I talked to her a little bit about it, and hopefully we can talk to her next week. I think we will. But it's going to take some time. This isn't a 1-year deal. Like, no one should expect her to go out and be anywhere near competitive in the first, 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, even the first year. I said this about Lindsey Brewer as well when we interviewed her. I was wrong. It didn't go according to plan. That's fine. Hand up. It didn't go great. She probably really should have started a little bit lower on the ranks, but I'm willing to give anyone a chance who takes the risk to go do it and to give it a shot. Everyone wants results instantly. We're all like, oh, you need to perform right now. It's like, well, if you ask that of Lewis Hamilton in his first year, he had to do 2 years of F2, 2 years of GP2. like it takes time for people to, to really become the best driver that they can be. And it's not unusual to spend 2 years in a championship to really start, getting it done in year 2. So we'll see what happens. But that's big news for the IndyCar paddock. And again, IndyCar not there, but Indy NXT right below us, and that's going to be on FS1 next year a lot, which will be really, really important. Hopefully that brings a ton more recognition to the other young drivers as well that are competing with her. So I think it's good for the sport in general. And honestly, pumped to see how it goes. So I think that's pretty much it for now. There's an Indy Lights test to look at this week. I'm going truck racing next weekend in Miami. So we got this weekend off. And we are going to get to Rinus Veekay. But Chase, real quick, I went to Collecticon last weekend. This is a random story for the podcast, but I feel like I had to talk to you because we're big trading card guys. Also, be on the lookout for some Parkside, some new Parkside cards that I'm looking at right here. I don't know if I'm allowed to share what these are.
Are they print again?
But it looks like there's an Indy 500, maybe some special edition Indy 500 line of Parkside cards that are kind of cool. I'm looking at some cool ones that I got right here in my hand. And I'm excited about what Parkside is doing for our trading cards.
Numbered value?
Maybe some numbers on them. With some signatures, maybe. Yeah. And, but man, Collecticon's wild. This is for all the nerds real quick. People might skip through this part of the podcast. But boy, I wish I would have kept all my Pokemon cards. Goodness gracious. There was some stuff there that I've seen that's worth
interesting rumor of where
your
cards are, by the way. Interesting rumor.
My parents' basement. Yeah. Who knows? They might have been stolen. Yeah, we heard someone say that my cousin sold cards of mine, or my dad offloaded them to my cousin at Nashville. I had no idea where that story came from, but it turns out it wasn't my cousin, and it was. So if you followed this line of stories about who sold my old Pokemon cards, it's almost like a CSI episode. It was kind of crazy,
really
but turns out it didn't happen because I definitely have most of my collection still. But wild to see, huh? Pokemon's big. If you got Pokemon cards and you want to get rid of them, let your boy know. Let me know. I'm ready to talk to you about it.
What was your biggest score this weekend?
Well, I got a couple things that I was looking for. I got a couple Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green, the set. Got a couple of those singles. Got a couple booster packs that I want in my collection. So again, that was nerd talk for us. Love trading cards. Love Pokemon. Shout out to the folks at Loose Packs.
Shout out to nerds.
They helped us out. Me and Jack Harvey went. Jack Harvey. We had a great boys weekend. We just went up to look at trading cards. Saw the Yin Yang Twins perform at the middle of the show. That was kind of wild.
Yin Yang Twins at Collecticon?
Yeah, Yin Yang Twins were at Collecticon. Never expected that.
Yin Yang Twins, bro.
Oh, man, a bunch of kids that were at this show were listening to the Yin Yang Twins talk about all that they talk about in their music. I was like, well, this is a wild. Yeah, the Whisper song, all those things. Yeah, that was a wild one. A lot going on there. So that was an interesting experience. But shout out Jack Harvey for going with me to Collecticon. And on that nerd discussion, that was Nerd Talk brought to you by
nerds.
I don't know, Collecticon and us and Pokemon. Shout out Pokemon. So with that, let's get to our interview with Rinus. This is a fantastic talk. I hope you guys enjoy it. A lot of questions. Thank you for asking questions as well in the Twitter sphere, the Thread sphere, wherever you were asking questions. Hopefully we got all those in for you guys. But here is a IndyCar race winner, Rinus Veekay. Well, folks, this week we have a very, very special guest. I think a lot of people were asking when we would have this young man on the show. We have been teammates before. He is an IndyCar race winner, a very, very, one of the fastest teammates that I've certainly ever had in my career. A young man who does spin moves on the driver intro stage whenever you see him up there. And he's a very fast man from the Dutch lands, a man who had to shorten his name because Americans couldn't understand it. Rinus Veekay, we appreciate you being here. My friend, how are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. My friend, so I have a lot of questions for you, and then there's a lot of, there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. Obviously, we are now both in the same boat of we are unemployed. But
it's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's the first time for you, about 46th time for me. But I have a lot about your time at ECR, but I have a lot about, I think, where you started, where you ended up. And we even got some questions from some folks on the internet, too. We got some people that have some things to answer. So let's just start with the Indy test, because you were in a car very recently
Yes.
with a different team. We were both out there. You were with Dale Coyne Racing. I want you to tell the folks kind of how that even happened and what you were doing before then, because I saw you walking by my garage and you said, well, I'm driving tomorrow. I was like, well, what? We had no idea.
Yeah. So, I knew the test was happening, so thought it was a smart idea given my situation to go to Indianapolis and just show my face and arrange some meetings. Try to get into the conversation. And it was noon on Thursday. Just finished working out, washing my sweat off, and it's always those kind of times from what you told me, like when I'm drying myself off after a shower, when Dale called me and he asked me what I was doing and if I wanted to be in the car. So that was a little bit short notice, but I rushed to the ECR shop, actually, got my seat, helmet stuff, and got to the track and got in the car. So yeah, that was interesting. Nothing I've been familiar with, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, welcome to being kind of on the sidelines every now and then. You just got to be ready to go whenever. It is what it is. And then now you have also recently moved to Indianapolis as well, or in the process of moving to Indianapolis. So you're making the move, making the commitment to be around these teams, to be more locked into the environment. Is that kind of just because it was a bit of an unexpected turn with the off season and how this whole separation of team and driver happened?
Yes, I was actually planning already in July to go to move to Indy, also to just travel less, be more central. But then, I think that actually will help me in the off season to just be in that place and be ready whenever if that has to happen sometime. But no, I think actually when I still thought I was going to race with ECR, I thought it was a great plan to also just be there and be there for pit stop practice and everything, just to be around the team, right? So in whatever case, I think moving to Indianapolis is a good thing.
So let's talk a little bit about what you've done. Again, you're still super young, which is crazy, but you've had a lot of success. And this world, and I certainly think the other teams as well, they're so easy to not, I think there's so much for you to be proud of in the short amount of time. But give us a little bit of a read on when you started with ECR, right? Rookie. There are people that said, at the beginning, obviously there were some mistakes, but you were also super fast, and that's kind of part of the game, right? And at Indy, you've been insanely fast in qualifying. Obviously, you're a psycho at Indy qualifying, always on the front row. It seems like if you're not on the front row, then you either had no wheels on your car or something was going to be falling off or melting. But talk us a little bit about your learning experience and talk us through your rookie year to then, all right, now you're winning a race, and then I guess sort of the back end of it now, not the back end of your career, but the back end of the deal with ECR. Tell us kind of how that went from rookie year to now.
Yeah, as a rookie, I got to IndyCar thinking, I knew what to do coming from Indy Lights at that time. And then Texas happened. I wasn't ready. That was quite the learning experience. And
I remember.
I've been really quick. It's just, as a rookie, you make rookie mistakes. That's why the whole phrase exists.
Someone actually asked us about your conversation with Ed after Texas, or there was a conversation. Maybe was that like a come to Jesus type meeting? Was there what was said there about like, hey, we need to clean things up, or we know you're fast, and then we know you can deliver, or how did that go?
Oh, you mean in Texas, right? Yeah, no, it wasn't those words. He was,
Okay.
he raced himself, so he was all sweaty. He was kind of like, he just had a top 10 finish. He had a pretty good race. And he comes out of the car and you could just, you see him boiling from inside. His face is red. He's like, I thought he was going to punch me at one time, but no, he was angry. And the thing that made him the most angry, I think, is because on the simulator, I did go below the line. I did get into the marbles, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta, you cannot do that in real life." I'm like, "Okay," and I can't. I did that in real life, and it didn't really work out. So that was learning experience. But then I had a pole position podium in my rookie year. Then 2021, I win in Indy on the road course. Really, I was sitting P6 in standings coming out of Detroit. Broke my collarbone, and then from then on, still had a pole position in 2023 in 2022 in Barber. And a podium. So I kind of have been in a drought from then on. And I feel like that's really when also the whole competition in IndyCar started to pick up to a way where there's alliances, there's a top 12 that's almost you can almost not break into. So that's kind of when I've felt like it's the level's really gone up right now.
I think having worked with you for several years, I know what we had to go through or were going through. And when I see, when I saw what you did and when I could see your data, it's so fast. And honestly, having you as a teammate for me was very, very beneficial because obviously, I was really only had any good results at Indy. But other than that, we were close to having a few good things here and there, but you're still the same driver that won the race. You're still the same driver that is on the pole, is on the podium, but obviously the results over the last year and a half or so have fallen off. That I don't think people often understand how difficult it is to stay at the elite level of competition. And you just said everyone is so competitive now. So was there maybe a bit of a just falling off of, hey, we haven't been able to keep up with the development there at the team? And again, I don't want to talk. Yeah, definitely. I'm here to talk about positive things, but I obviously could say everyone I think expects me to come on here and just trash talk ECR, which I'm not really interested in doing. But it is. But one thing leads to another, and this there are real reasons why they had a guy who's a race winner who is so successful at this level of the series, maybe all of a sudden not be where he was. It's not. It's a whole team effort in general. This is not one fault of one person.
No, and I mean, I believe, that with ECR, we've kind of, especially 2023, been stuck at a level where others progressed and other teams got a lot better. We kind of got stuck where we were. But I believe right now, and, you said I'm still the same driver as the driver that won a race, that got pole positions, podiums. I believe this year, 2024, was my best season I've ever driven. Like, I feel like I'm putting races together.
Yeah. Same as in you haven't fallen off. Like, you're definitely even more, I would say, smarter and better now. That's just kind of what I meant for sure.
Yes, and I just, I feel like, I'm doing some stuff out there that, I'm kind of impressed with myself. But then, you can't always show that, the same as Nashville. We had a great race, but then every time we pitted, they went yellow. And that's P12. But, you got to salvage those results whenever something like that happens.
Let's talk a little bit about Indy, because a lot of speed at Indy. You're so good at qualifying there. And I struggle qualifying there. I think you can always find a reason. Like, I'm like, oh, man, I didn't quite get that. But where do you attribute your ability to just find everything possible at Indy? What is it about your driving style that helps you be, an absolute savage in qualifying, but also in the race too, but more particularly qualifying?
Well, I think confidence is one thing. confidence, when we're trimming, just sticking it with the throttle, but also, the little things as in not scrubbing speed off and straightening out the wheel kind of mid-corner, aiming at the wall, but, starting to build those RPMs mid-corner. I think that's where I'm really comfortable with. And it's just kind of that I feel like that's just a natural connection that I had with the Speedway. It did me a few times. We've had a few, if you look at 2024 qualifying in Indy, it was quite a crazy story, but still, I was on the bad side of things at one point of the day, and the other side of the day, I was on the good side of things. So things can change so quickly, but I feel like, even with the Dale Coyne car, just the confidence at that track, it just feels so familiar.
I love that. Chase, I'm going to let you jump in here.
Yeah, I just kind of jumping into some things off of the track for right now. I know that you're going to have a really busy off season more than likely, but some of your hobbies, do you find this as an opportunity to take some more time cycling? I hear you're a big bicycle guy.
I was, until I broke my collarbone. I tried again, then I fell on my knee, and then I was really done. So I'm just just stationary cycling on Zwift right now.
That's probably smart.
Yeah, I'm picking up golf. I'm kind of getting into that now, and unfortunately, golfing in Florida means there's a hurricane about to hit you.
True.
Those are some things, but actually, one thing I'm really busy with is my wife right now. She's a professional boxer, and that sport's even more crazy than racing at times.
How is that, being how you have a professional boxer as a wife and you as a driver? What's that dynamic like?
A lot
of training,
Bonnie and
a lot
Clyde,
of physical
she
activity.
Punches the people.
Yeah.
She punches the people. I'm the getaway driver. No, I'm just there watching her spar. That's, I did that this morning. I was there and, this was a great day because she was beating up another girl. That's just very fun to see.
Wow. There you go.
Nice.
Hey, good for her. Good for her. I respect that. Rinus, there was a lot of people that wanted to ask what was I like as a teammate, because there was a lot of weird stuff that when I got fired that came out of saying there was like bad vibes or something, and I was like, well, I thought I worked with Rinus pretty well, and but maybe not. So give us your honest opinion. What was going on? I felt like I was trying to fight for us. Maybe I was a little bit too aggressive in trying to ask for the car to be better. But what was I like as a teammate?
No, you were a good teammate. You were great. We had a lot of fun. That's one thing. We had some energy inside that team.
True.
But no, you're quick, really. Especially on the short ovals, you were able to push me in qualifying. Really, that's where my confidence really lacked a little bit. And you went out similarly to Ryan. Just 2 laps and you're a tenth off what you do in qualifying. That's the kind of stuff that really impressed me. Especially those short ovals. You're really experienced and quick.
Oh, there you go. Well, all right, we'll take it. And actually, this is kind of an interesting question. When I did get replaced, like, what was it a bit of a, like, what was it like having then Ryan in the team? Was it something where all of a sudden, I guess there was, some of what I had been saying, you're like, oh, well, I guess that does make sense. Or what was the vibe like? Because it was obviously very volatile outside of it. And it was a crazy, everyone was saying all kinds of things. I'm still hearing rumors about what people were saying about me. I'm like, well, that's hysterical. But people can say whatever they want. But what was the vibe like? Obviously, I've now been teammates with Ryan, and I like Ryan a lot. So he's a good teammate.
We came to the conclusion that we still had the same issues in car balance. That didn't change.
There you go.
Well, you are a lot more. You are, Ryan's not a princess, but you are less of a princess than he is. You're kind of like me. You just get in. You can be sideways in the car or upside down. You'll drive that thing.
That's true. Yeah.
Where I didn't even know there were different sizes steering wheels. I just had my steering wheel. I got Edson's molds from 2019. And,
True.
He wanted a big steering wheel in one place, small one in the other. And, that's the thing that kind of woke me up to be a little bit more picky in that way. But, things didn't really change drastically, no.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's interesting to hear. So let's talk a little bit about this year, because you were saying, and I want to give you credit for this too, but you were doing things with that car that I think is not as recognized as it deserves to be. Because again, I was out on the track watching, we ended up around each other several different times at like Milwaukee, Nashville, all kinds of things. I would say you are able to drive a car that is out of control way better than almost anyone I've seen, because that car looked difficult to drive, but you were there delivering top tens. You were there, in the fight. And I respect that. You felt like your level of driving was at the highest level because you were in a bit of a battle with the car.
I was. It definitely was. And I think you agree, having, being able to deliver whatever you can out of the struggle, a car that's at that point not the fastest, and it's a bit of a beast to handle. It makes you better, when you do get the car that's doing what you want it to do. That's when things do feel so easy, and I feel like, in a driver development kind of side, I'm pretty happy I've had those struggles, because I think, whenever I'm in a car that will fight for a win, I think I'm able to pull it off, just because, I'm going to be so much more in control of the car.
Absolutely. No, I agree. So I want to talk about a lot of things still, but when you look back at your win and the feeling that gave you and your family and the people that supported you, is that still just something that completely ignites your fire to be back in the series? Obviously, you're out on the outside looking in, just, like me, like several other drivers, but that has to be something that it's almost like a drug. Like, you need that again. You want to be the best of the best again, and it has to just motivate you to do whatever it takes to get back in the grid.
Oh yeah, it's still, we still have the photos everywhere. It was a pretty cool photo with the wings coming out of my back at the Speedway. I think my daddy's made like a bunch of like pedal rackets, like a dozen of them with that photo, and it's everywhere. So yeah, we're still feeding off that day, definitely. But it's what we're all here for, right? Even if I didn't win before an IndyCar, that's what you want to do, and you can imagine what it's like, and it's kind of like that, but better. It's just every time I see another guy win, I know what they're going through, and that makes me even more envious.
Yeah, I would like to also feel that feeling. That would be nice. I thought I've been close a couple times, but it's why we show up. Even the podium in Milwaukee, it was like, man, this is way more fun than not being on the podium. It's just why we do it. It's that feeling of success and happiness. So give us a read on what you think the future looks like, because really there are not a lot of seats left. I mean, we're essentially competing for the same ones. There's a situation where we could end up being teammates again next year. Who knows? But everyone's competing for the same 4 open seats. And what does it look like for you? Is it something to where, hey, we're going to try to find some support from your home country, or is there folks that you're working on to try to be like, hey, we're going to get back in this and we're going to be in a new situation where we can start fresh again?
Well, the thing is, unfortunately, most of the seats that are available do require money or funding.
Yes.
And if that's not met with sponsoring, there's got to be a driver that pays that budget. So, it's very tough, but it's kind of in a position, where every day the whole story changes.
Yes.
And there's some dominoes that need to fall the right way. But I feel like the opportunity I got with Dale to drive his car at least showed him, what I can do, and what people need to know on the inside, and on how I work, what my feedback is. And, I feel like during the test with Dale Coyne, we started in a place and we ended in a totally different place that was so much better. And I kind of, kind of pulled the whole team towards getting the car like that. And hopefully that creates a bunch of opportunities. I think I'm pretty confident I'll be in IndyCar full time, and I'm sleeping a lot better after doing that test there in Indy, just by showing people what I got so they can fight for me.
Well, I like that. That's a lot of confidence. I would like to have the same confidence. I am probably been unemployed more times than you to know, but I respect it. And you deserve to be in the series, though, without a doubt. I mean, you have so much of your career in front of you. So I love that, and I'm glad it's going well. Chase, I'll let you jump back in here. As long as you don't ask him about breaking his shoulders.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, you overcame it. I am proud of you for that. Like, you're here today, and that's what matters.
Yeah, thank you. Still medal in there.
Yeah.
That's it, Doug. So you talk a little bit about, how you felt like last year was your best year. And I mean, looking at some of the results, we know you had a lot of top 10 finishes there. So it's easy to see, the numbers don't lie, getting the opportunity with Dale Coyne now. But when it does look to the future, like, how are you open to the possibility of just getting behind the wheel of maybe another type of car? Or have you talked to anybody maybe outside of the open wheel racing world about any other forms of racing that you could get involved in, or is that something you even really want to try to do?
Well, I mean, that's one of the possibilities. If we cannot get full time in IndyCar, which is the priority, definitely. I'm gonna try to stay warm in another series and kind of be ready to go on the sidelines of IndyCar, because we know what happens during a season. There's a lot of stuff that happens, but no, I've been looking into IMSA and I'm open to doing it if IndyCar doesn't work out, but that's kind of a plan Z right now. The biggest goal for me is to have another 20 plus years in IndyCar.
Love that.
We had a couple questions on Twitter from some folks, and this is actually an interesting one. This one kind of goes back to the beginning of your career, but Michael wanted to know what made you want to jump from the Euro karting scene over to the U.S. open wheel ladder. What was the choice that really said that made you say, "Hey, I'm going to go to America"?
So the biggest thing is the scholarship system. Back when it was the Mazda Road to Indy, that's so big. My dad could help me out and kickstart my career, but I couldn't fund myself to go to Formula One or even IndyCar. And that's what's so unique, in F3, F2, you win, and then, you get a trophy, and good luck in Formula E. And
that's a good way to put it.
And in IndyCar, it's kind of like, I won the Pro Mazda Championship, which is Indy Pro 2000 now, and got $800,000 to drive in the lights, and then I finished second in the championship behind Askew, but I was spotted by Edge, and he gave me that opportunity to drive for him for 5 years. So I mean, that's how it goes, and you're driving with IndyCar the whole weekend. You're around, you can see how it works, and it's exactly how we envisioned it, and it kind of worked even quicker than we planned to. So I mean, that's the biggest thing for us, is the scholarship system, because it wouldn't have been possible without.
I agree. That's the same way I kind of launched through the system as well. The scholarship system is still one of the greatest things available to young drivers, without a doubt. I want to know what obviously the last couple of weeks have been weird, but the move that ECR made to keep Rasmussen instead of you, I think a lot of people have questions about, and I like Christian. I think he's a fast driver as well. But, and this might be hard to answer, but why do you think that decision was made to either keep him and not you? Or because I think you and Alex Rossi would have been a wildly strong team and extremely formidable. Why do you think that decision? Was it a timing thing? Was it because obviously I know from knowing you that, and I even told you this, I was like, hey, I think you should, if there's even a chance that you could have an opportunity elsewhere just to expand your horizons. You're still so young. Like, if you got a chance with another team, maybe that's the best move you could make. It was certainly for me. But how do you think that decision was made, and how do you feel about it now?
I mean, I don't really know why, but I have two theories that I kind of believe in. I mean, one thing, Christian's had a good rookie season. He's a friend, he was a great teammate. I just think for him, one thing, there's more longevity for him in IndyCar. Yes. I think Ed saw I was kind of looking around me to see what else there was. And I think for Christian, he can kind of build something. I've had with Ed, in the last 5 years, and he can stay there. And I think with Rossi, the same thing. They can kind of stay there for a long time and be a lineup for the next 5 years. One thing I also believe is that who's going to be the number one driver at ECR if I'm there and Rossi? That's, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
I know I can understand that Alex, he wants to shine, which has been hard to do next to Pato. There's this possibility that the same thing happens with me, and Anyway, I don't know what to make of it. I'm just kind of trying to speculate and make things make sense.
I think it's good. Sure. I mean, it's a tough question, I know, but I like for a lot of us, when we look at pure results and points, and maybe it is the whole number one driver thing. Maybe the energy then changes because essentially they have two number one drivers when they've got you and Alex there, and maybe the vibe. A lot of people in IndyCar don't think that that's the case. There's like a kind of a number one, and it used to be always at ECR that the 21 car, right, is that's the guy. Like, I mean, it's not officially.
Well,
but realistically,
there's not even something like that inside the team. But
no, of course, yeah. I'm not saying there was either, but like, if anything was to be, it was like the 21 car had the direct supply deal, which was always like a in-house, like that's a good thing. That's everyone kind of assumed the 21 car was like
fan speculation assumption.
But I agree. There was not like. Yeah, I did not feel that way either. So I'm not trying to say that there was, but it is, sometimes there is a bit of a lean towards a one or two, right?
Yes. No, I agree. I think that's, indeed, ECR never worked with the number one, number two team. But,
I agree.
I feel like, just kind of the engineers that are on the cars, and, it's kind of a reoccurring thing. So, it makes sense, behind the scenes, there's kind of an unwritten number one on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One thing's for sure, I would just say, go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, before we got off of that, one thing was for sure is the content game, the meme game. If you would have been able to stay, if you would have taken Rasmussen's spot, y'all could have done really good Step Brothers pictures, you and Alex Ross. Y'all kind of, like, there's some similarities and features there. So... I think that could have made for some fun time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I maybe have a bit more hair going on, but that's
true. Slightly. That's a plus.
Talk a little bit about the support from your home country. There's a lot of passionate Dutch fans, a lot of incredible race fans that make the trip over, to the States to support you. What's having that fan base like? Has it been really cool to see grow over the last few years?
Yeah, it's cool to see. I mean, it's not just a little trip. It's this huge trip making it over overseas here, and there's some fans that come back every other weekend. It's just crazy, and it's this is the one thing I keep thinking about. Like, how do you guys pay for all of this? It's just
we can barely afford to get to the race.
I know, but it's great to see that passion, and also there's one guy at the Indy 500 every year that has this huge Dutch flag he's waving at the parade, at the race, everything. So, no, it's just so cool to see, some of that Dutch passion coming overseas and having someone to root for in IndyCar and really make a trip over for.
I love that as well. Before we let you go, because I appreciate the time that you've said, you're a very funny dude who says a lot of things that you might not know that you're saying at the time, but obviously you're older and more mature now, of course. But can you list like some of your favorite moments in IndyCar, but like not on the track? What have been some of your favorite moments being a part of the IndyCar paddock so far? What has it been? The bus lot during the month of May? Has it been, just showing up to certain appearances? What's been kind of some of your favorite parts of being involved in the IndyCar paddock?
The bus lot's always a thing. It's been very quiet last year, which
yes,
gotta change that up. It's been boring. I think that's just something really cool. That the bus lot is one cool thing, and also just seeing the line at the autograph sessions every time for the people that show up to us. The change from the road to Indy to IndyCar, it's just so big, and there's just the things, especially in Indiana when I'm there. I'm just going out for brunch or something. I'm on my own at the bar, and people come up to me and they know who I am. It's just kind of
huge.
You're kind of a celebrity in a way, but also people don't know who you are in another way. So I think there's this really nice balance in IndyCar where I could walk around and people would think I'm a race fan until one guy picks me out, right? So it's just it's just so cool to be there all the time, and I feel like the whole paddock's just kind of like a family with all the drivers, and it's very friendly to very very friendly, just compared to other drivers, and there's always times to hang out. When you're on your own, you're never done talking to anybody.
I agree completely. Rinus, I feel like I could get into just a lot, because there's a lot that people want to know, and I think there's a lot that we told everyone that ECR still needed to send out a thank you tweet or some sort of thank you message, because every other driver that got released from a team got a very nice thank you post and thanks for all the memories. So I'm still a little bit sour about that, as I mentioned to you, but we obviously can't control that. That's fine. No. But I just know that I thought you deserved better. We
had fans that also said thank you as well.
Yeah.
We said that on the show last week, and I did see some tweets that went out. So we're gonna just start rolling those out.
I got one. I saw one. Yes.
There you go.
All right. There we go.
One more before you go. I would say the Indy 5. What Indy 500 specifically do you believe that you were closest to winning? Because obviously we had the 2021 race where we were both, at the front, having a great day. Both had big issues. You know what I mean? And so someone asked me about the 2020 Indy 500. What pit stop do you hate the most that happened? What Indy 500 do you think you've been closest to, and how did that feel?
Yeah, I think 2023 still feels like it was closest. That car was really good. I feel like it kind of matched the cars in the years prior. I just feel as a driver like I was the most. I kind of felt ready from 2023 on to really be dangerous in that lead, and it looked a bit clumsy in pit lane too. I still feel so bad every time I see it. I'm like, oh, I look like such an idiot. But also,
racing is hard. Yeah.
and the thing is, I hurt someone else's chances too. That's, I'm racing myself. I'm pushing as hard as I can. But then also, the number 2 contender was out because of me, which, you never want to be part of. But yeah, I felt like, this year, 2024, we had a quick car, but because of that crash, it was never as fast anymore as what I've had prior. 2023 really felt like, I think everybody felt like I was one of the favorites to win that race. And, stuff happens. I've gone through every scenario except that happening in pit lane, and, that's what happens. So, it's Indy 500. I feel like it's for some people the easiest to win right away. And for some people, the hardest to win throughout the career. Look at Dixon. He's always been fast, and he's only hit it once. So, it's a special race on its own. But I think I'm gonna hit the jackpot sometimes. Yeah,
me too. I hope we can both hit that jackpot. Yeah,
it's like playing golf. It's the one great shot that keeps you going.
Yeah. That couldn't be more accurate. You hit that one chip close onto the green, you're like, now I'm a golfer. And then the next drive, you slice hard right into the bushes. Yes. That's just what happens.
I actually believed, I told my engineer, Matt Barnes, earlier this year when I just picked up golf, and I hit a sub 100 rounds.
Oh,
I told him,
big day.
I could have become a professional golfer if I really put my mind to it. Until I went to Whistling Straits. Have you been to Whistling Straits?
No, I have not. I have not, but I do know of it.
No, I hit 130 plus, so that was a humbling day.
That's tough. You were trying to go for the NBA scores, not the golf scores.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Tough.
I thought the higher the score, the better, but no, unfortunately.
Well, Rinus, do we think before Christmas we're going to have a new deal for you, or what? Are we speculating on timing?
My goal is within 2 weeks of now. So
wow, you're way closer than
this
me.
Man
maybe
is confident,
maybe
dude.
I'm getting hustled. Gosh,
no, I feel like stuff's going to happen soon. So no, I'm my phone's on all the time. I'm ready to get a call soon, hopefully.
Well, your phone, I promise, is ringing more than mine. So that's awesome. I respect it. Rinus, we appreciate you being on the show. It was an amazing experience being your teammate. You're a very fast driver, as I've always told everyone. Everyone thought, oh, what's the vibes after Connor got shafted out of there? It's like, well, no, I actually have a lot of respect for everyone in that team, mechanics-wise, people-wise, Rinus-wise. There was just a couple that I think didn't like me at all. So that was it. And I respect you, and I really do hope you get the chance you deserve to continue fighting for victories.
Yeah, I hope so too. No, I hope so too. And it's been a pleasure being on the podcast. And I mean, who knows? We might be teammates next year.
Who knows? Who knows? I wouldn't be upset about it at all. Wouldn't be upset about it at all.
I'll take anything full time right now.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. So I certainly I can't do that because I'm not Rinus. But we're gonna figure it out. But thank you, man. Thanks for being here, and we'll support you as we figure out what happens over these next few weeks.
All right.
Well, folks, we are super thankful that Rinus Veekay gave us the time to chat with him. Really appreciate him, his talent, his attitude toward life in general. So appreciate Rinus, and yeah, we've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up over the next couple weeks. Still, it might be the IndyCar off season, but I am going NASCAR Truck Series racing once again for the final time this year. Next week at Homestead in Miami. So be sure to check that out. That'll be a lot of fun, I hope. There is as we mentioned previously, there is a Indy NXT test this week after the big news of Hailee Deegan being in Indy NXT. A lot of people will be paying attention to that. So that'll be going on this week. I'm sure hopefully there'll be some live timing, or people can overly judge results of testing on the Friday, but yeah, Chase, what do we think about getting towards the random Indy 500 driver of the week? Are we ready for this segment?
I'm ready to dive into this new era of this new decade, I guess we would say. I'm excited.
All right, with that, we will get into a tremendous segment that is sponsored by no one, but it is the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who'll make up the field?
This week, we went to a year that producer Bobby said that we have never been to before, which that's great news. I didn't know that I have not been to one of these years yet. We went to the 1951 Indianapolis 500. The 1951 Indianapolis 500 was won by Lee Wallard. Lee Wallard was the victor, but we went to the 28th place finisher, Cliff Griffith. Cliff Griffith, that's a tongue twister if you say it 5 times fast. Cliff Griffith. So,
Mike Tyson.
28th place finisher. Yeah. He was born in Nineveh, Indiana, an Indiana man. And Griffith served in the United States Army during the Second World War. Shout out, veterans, respect. Griffith drove in the AAA and USAC Championship Car Series, racing in the 1950 to 52, 56, and 61 seasons with 19 starts. He finished in the top 10 8 times. Best finish, 4th, 1950 at Springfield. His best Indy finish was 9th in 1952. That's pretty cool. So he did 1951, 1952, 1956, and the 1961 Indy 500s. And as we mentioned, he started, looks like he started ninth, finished ninth in 52, so that's a good year. Also in the top 10 in 56 as well, which is great. So, yeah, Cliff Griffith, what do you think?
It sounds like when you first said it, I was just like, is this guy related to Peter Griffin? I don't know why I went to Family Guy. He sounds like could be a Family Guy character.
It was easy to go to.
It was, yeah. That was immediately where my brain went. I was trying to get a picture pulled up of this fella. But
I think there's one on the Google, but he's got a young face. Cliff Griffith, American Motorsports racing driver. Number 23 looks like it was his car.
He sounds like, it sounds like a guy, dude, I'll tell you that.
And an Indiana guy, too. We respect that.
That as well. That was the big thing I was going to say, especially with you being, you're the Indiana guy, kind of like in this era.
There's not as many of them anymore, really. Yeah,
no.
Not as many of them anymore.
Has there ever been any from Louisiana? I had to ask real quick. Would you know that?
I don't know. We should do a random Louisiana driver of the week next week, maybe. Maybe we'll do a random Indy 500 driver from Louisiana next week. We'll figure it out. Tweet us, actually, what drivers are from Louisiana in the Indy 500 history. Shoot us some tweets, some X posts, some Instagram messages, some threads, maybe if you're on the threads. Let us know who's from Louisiana. Yeah. So anyway, we appreciate you guys. What a show. Lot of things talked about. A lot of exciting things ahead. Excited for our guests in the future. I am working on some very exciting guests for the future. And I hope it works out. So the next couple weeks, I think, will be really cool. I'm working ahead on the guests, just like I'm working ahead on trying to find sponsorship. So we will see what happens. But subscribe to all the channels, hit all the buttons that mean that you're following us and enjoying the program. But we will see you next week on Speed Street. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.